Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another BRAP. It is Wednesday night, and that means it's time to discuss all things video games, all things gaming-related news. Well, I guess that would be all things video games. But anyhow, look, have a great show. Have a lot to talk about. New Xbox leaks, believe it or not. More Xbox leaks. Did a BRAP rant yesterday. If you didn't catch the BRAP rant, definitely check that out. I'll drop a link for that rant here shortly. We just, more information leaked. And it sounds like it was Microsoft's mistake that these leaks came out. But before we get started, I do want to introduce, and by the way, the rest of the BRAP panel members will be joining us shortly. Game Logic will be here shortly as well. Slow-Mo has got a new microphone. He is setting that up, so he'll be joining us too. And I think Forte will be here as well. But we do have returning guest. We have David Faulkner, Falky, as he's known on the Twitters, joining us from Australia. I guess we made it to another day.
Yes, we did. And Thursday is an amazing day.
Well, that's good to hear, Falky. And actually, we do have someone in the live chat's actually from Australia as well. So he says, "Good morning from Orange, Australia." So that is Hero Down Under. That's the gentleman in the live chat here.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. So, real quick, everyone in the live chat, I'm going to drop a link here to the live to the podcast. If you wouldn't mind retweeting it or sharing it on your favorite social media channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Oh, look, we have someone else. Someone from Melbourne, Australia, representing Chad Stud.
Oh.
Look at that, fucker! You have fans following you, man, from Australia.
Excellent. I don't know. I don't know if you call them fans. I think they're just here to hear a good conversation. But Melbourne's I'm only a couple of hours away in Sale, Gippsland. So, yeah, beautiful day today.
Well, Falky, thank you for joining us. I know it was very last minute, but there were some new leaks that came out regarding potential financials, revenue numbers from Microsoft. So I wanted to talk about that because I think a lot of people, when a lot of people discuss revenue numbers, frankly, they just don't know what they're talking about. So this is why we wanted to have you on, because you are the numbers person. You understand what the numbers mean. You understand P&L. You understand the finances behind these things. And so that's why we wanted to have you on and get your perspective. Also, talk to you about other gaming related topics. As one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is, look, the onslaught of video games continues for 2023. We're going to discuss CyberPunk.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy, Falky. Like, Falky, so let me, like, what? So, like, this year 2023, how does this year compare to some of your more memorable or favorite years in gaming?
Oh, it's a tough one. I'm always been a quality over quantity person. This year, I think we've had in excess of 10 quality games come out, which is unusual. I mean, 2011 springs to mind. 2014 was pretty good. I think 97 is still the benchmark. I don't think we're going to do better than 97, but we're getting close. If a few of these games that had pushed out to 24 had actually made it into 23, I'd say we'd be, a couple of points off matching 97. But I think 2023 is probably ballpark 2011, probably better than 2014. But I think it's top three at the moment. It's aiming at top three. See how the run through October and November goes. If anything drops out just before Christmas, we'll probably push it over the top. But yeah, and for those who are listening who are the younger part of the audience, go and look at what came out in 1997. And for those of us who remember that golden year, you'll look through that list and you'll go, how the hell did everyone afford to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's that was a great year for gaming. And Look, so we're going to talk about Cyberpunk 2027 Phantom Liberty, which the reviews seem to be stellar for that DLC. We'll talk about that. Also, Mortal Kombat 1 just released too. I'm seeing a lot of marketing commercials on TV for that. And Liza P just came out. That was pretty reviewed pretty well as Mortal Kombat 1, and now Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty Phantom Liberty. I'm sorry, which is coming out tomorrow. So I'm actually going to stop playing. I'm about 50 plus hours into Starfield. I feel like I've kind of hit a wall with Starfield now. I'm just going to put Starfield down, put it on the back burner, and download. I actually just re-downloaded Cyberpunk on my PC. I'm going to go and start playing Fanny. I can't even talk. Phantom Liberty starting tomorrow. So, but Falk, great to have you back on. Really appreciate it as always. Also want to welcome Game Logic. Logic, how are you this evening?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Good, man. Hopefully, I was going to say hopefully you stopped by that taco truck, but I did speak to you earlier. That didn't happen. But great to see you, Logic. All right. So, sorry, give me a second here. Need to pull up some of these news items. I had them up and then closed them by accident. All right, gentlemen. So we do have some gaming-related news to talk about. And look, I always tell the listeners of the show to please, and I'll throw this question out to you, Logic. What is the best video game news website out today?
There's only one gaming news website remaining that has any salt of journalistic integrity left on the planet, and that's GameIndustry.biz.
Yes, that's the correct answer. So, according to GameIndustry.biz, and this article is by Christopher Dring. I'd love to get Christopher on, by the way. Let's see if we can make that happen. According to his reporting and this was also picked up by other media outlets, but I am going to cite the GameIndustry.biz article here. Criterion to work on Battlefield under Vince Zampella. Yay. Look, and for those who don't know who Vince Zampella is, Vince was formerly of Activision, created a game called Titanfall under his new studio. What is the name of his studio again? I always forget. Respawn Entertainment. And eventually purchased by EA. So Criterion Studios moved divisions to work on Battlefield franchise. The UK studio was previously under the EA Sports banner, but will now operate under Vince Zampella's group within EA Entertainment. No layoffs are part of the plan. No layoffs are planned as part of the move. EA has told GameIndustry.biz. Criterion is famous for Burnout and Need for Speed. Burnout was one of my favorite games from them, from Criterion. Need for Speed, but has also worked on several Battlefield and Battlefront games before and is familiar with the Frostbite engine. Alongside Battlefield, Criterion will continue to lead develop on future Need for Speed titles. The firm joins a roster of Battlefield studios that include DICE, Ripple Effect, and Ridgeline. And I quote Vince Zampella here, as we've said before, we're all in on Battlefield. Today, Criterion is added to our world-class Battlefield studios, dedicated to ushering a new era for the franchise. Majority of the team will be working alongside DICE, Ripple Effect, Ridgeline, that are led by Brian Bede, General Manager of Battlefield. Criterion's experience with Battlefield, our technology, and building engaging experiences will have an immediate positive impact as we continue to work on Battlefield 2042 and as we continue to pre-production on a connected Battlefield universe. I'll throw this out to you, Logic. Thoughts on Criterion joining Battlefield team? I almost said Battlefield team.
Well, actually, you wouldn't be incorrect with Battlefront also either. And if my mic, if my mic's too loud in the chat, if you guys can let me know, help out with the audio mix balance. So they have done work on Battlefront before.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what year it was, but they did like this. They were the space battle team, so it's vehicular simulations are kind of their forte. I mean, Need for Speed. I want to say Underground. It wasn't Underground though. What was it last year that came out?
It was Need for Speed. It was the one that had
Unbound, I think it was.
Yeah.
And my comments on that game a little loud, but all good. So I'll crank it down a little bit, or try to anyway. My comments on that game were, Unbound. Unbound was good, but it wasn't quite back to peak Need for Speed of the franchise for me. Burnout was a fine game. Burnout Paradise was an okay game, but I don't like Burnout mixed with my Need for Speed. And Need for Speed, that's absolutely what Need for Speed Most Wanted, the second was. Because the Need for Speed Most Wanted, that is the better game, in my opinion, was like the 2005 version. The one that came out that was, heavily kind of console oriented. That was just like a bunch of Need for Speed, a bunch of Burnout mixed with Need for Speed, didn't do it for me. So Criterion is a development studio that kind of my commentary on them for the Need for Speed games. Now, Need for Speed Most Wanted that came out on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era was incredible. And what I often comment with that studio is that their versions of Need for Speed are great depending on which Criterion it is that shows up. So Unbound last year was pretty good, not quite peak Need for Speed. I'm okay with them going to Battlefield. I mean, I prefer they do Need for Speed, but I'm also like, I don't want them on Need for Speed unless they're like 100%, 110% focused on Need for Speed. I don't need the current regime where they were kind of flip-flopping back and forth. And it sounds like primarily what they've done now, it's kind of weird, is they've actually split the team up. And so there's a team that they're taking, because EA is splitting up into Electronic Arts and EA Sports, two different divisions. It's kind of weird to me. I don't know that I'm so Need for Speed Carbon did come out during the PS3, Xbox 360 era. Need for Speed there was a Need for Speed Hot Pursuit version that also came out during that era. The Carbon was the launch title. So EA is splitting up into two divisions, Electronic Arts and EA Sports. I'm not entirely tracking. I would have thought Zampella would have had responsibilities in one of those divisions, but that article commented that he was still overseeing the Need for Speed franchise, even though it's moving over into a separate division. So I'm not exactly sure how that division of roles and responsibilities is going to go. But as far as Criterion goes, I want them 110% focused on whichever thing it is that they're going to do. I'm not a huge Battlefield fan. I have always liked the vehicles in Battlefield. Whereas in Call of Duty, I don't touch any of the vehicle-based modes whatsoever. But I'm fine with them splitting the team up so that at least the people who are working on Need for Speed are only working on Need for Speed and are entirely focused on that.
Yeah, my kind of takeaway too is that, I mean, we already knew about the other studios that were supporting Battlefield, but them adding Criterion now, and just it reminds me of kind of how Activision pulled more resources into Call of Duty. And for me, like I used to enjoy Battlefield. I know that Slobo and Forte and people have been trying to get us to play Battlefield 2042. I don't have any interest in going back to it. Although I don't know, I may give it a shot. I don't know, but I just don't have any interest. But I was actually Battlefield actually got me off Call of Duty. Years and years ago, like with Battlefield, I think it was Battlefield Bad Company. Was it Bad Company 2? Yeah, I think it was Bad Company 2. I think that was the one with one of my favorite maps, Eureka Harbor, I think, which was the name of the map. And then after that was I'm drawing a blank here with the Battlefields that came out in sequence here. I think it was Battlefield, was it 3? I'd have to go back and look. But anyhow, but the point is, Battlefield took me away from Call of Duty for quite some time, and then I eventually made my way back to Call of Duty. So, but I think it's interesting. They're bringing more resources to support Battlefield, and it sounds like, at least with 2042, from what Forte and Slomo have been saying, that they have fixed some of the issues with the game, and the game seems to play better than it did initially at launch. Because if I'm not mistaken, that game did launch with quite a few issues. So, but Falky, are you a Battlefield fan?
Never actually played it. Well, I shouldn't say I've never played it. I haven't played it for ages. I haven't played Battlefield 2042. I'm just no good at first-person shooters that are really fast. I can't keep up. I get shot all the time. I'm a hopeless team player. I'm just really, really slow. So
you're not. No Call of Duty.
But yeah, I mean, no. Well, yeah, I just can't keep up. It's too fast for me. But yeah, it's some interesting developments there. I think there's with EA, they're probably looking to do what most of the others are doing at the moment, and streamline a lot of their stuff. We're in that phase now, I shouldn't say post consolidation, but their internal consolidation requirements now with the current economic environment. You just got to trim it up and tune it up and do it. So I don't know if it's going to be a positive or a negative influence on the games, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. Again, it comes down to having the right people with their hands on it rather than standing over the top and just making silly decisions.
Yeah. Well, again, I think for me, I hope that the additional support yields. Again, like, I haven't played Battlefield 2042. Again, I'm just going by the feedback of Slomo and Gaming Forte, who said the game feels better, but or plays better now. But I feel like the Battlefield games more recently haven't released well. And I think back to previous, and I'd have to go back and dig up the sales numbers, but I believe the previous Battlefield games have sold better, if I'm not mistaken, than the Battlefield 2042 version that's out now. But I'd have to go back and look at that. But for me, it's kind of going back to, I guess, a level of quality that I recall with some of the earlier Battlefield games that I played, like Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, things like that. So I'm curious to see what this is going to what this game's going to yield, or what these investments are going to yield for the Battlefield franchise. Gregor Von Doom says Battlefield 1 released pretty solid. Yes, it did, from what I recall. Gregor Von Doom, as the Washington Commanders will this Sunday. Gregor Von Doom. Anyhow, all right. So I do want to move on to another news item here. I mentioned earlier in the show, Logic, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I've hit a wall with Starfield. I am going to put the game on the back burner, and I'm going to move to play Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, the DLC, which is coming out. Oh boy. Hold on a sec here, guys. We got a live one in the chat.
Do you have to bring out the pimp hand, or?
Yeah, hold on a sec here. Yeah, I'd say there's some weird people out in the world. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, fuck, I think you're a mod, right? You should be a mod if you're not one.
I am. I am. Well, I don't know. I actually, because I'm dialing in from my phone today, I can't run both of them at the same time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I can't see who it is you're talking about.
You may have.
If he's not playing nice, just kick him out.
No, he's just saying some stuff like, some. I don't want to give him any. Yeah, Ooh. Gregor Von Doom. Okay, thank you, Gregor. Yeah, he's just saying some weird things in the chat. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm actually stepping away from Starfield to play Phantom Liberty, but Starfield has set a new Bethesda record with a gigantic milestone, another milestone. Recently, they did release or they did mention that they have had 6 million players. But Bethesda has recently reported that they have now are celebrating 10 million players in the game since its launch on September 5th. So now, is that Logic? Do we know what the 10 million is? Is that a combination of? I'm assuming it's a combination of sold and then people have tried the game in Game Pass, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's anybody who obtained the game through any means, downloaded it, installed it, and booted it long enough for it to create an entry in the database attaching their gamer tag to that title to track their achievements.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So and actually the Starfield Twitter account or X account, whatever the hell you want to call it, they tweeted this out yesterday, as a matter of fact. And they thanked everyone. Thanks to an astronomical 10 million Starfield players. So, yeah, I mean, look, 10 million is 10 million. I guess, I'm not going to really, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what that means. But again, I was just curious to see if that, if that was a kind of a combination. I assumed it was. A combination of, people that bought the game and then people who tried the game through a subscription service. So, but this is, look, I said this before. I think the dialogue around Starfield, the good dialogue around Starfield, has been a positive for the Xbox. We talked about this, I think, last week, Logic, where we saw a knock-on effect of Starfield on the UK sales of the Xbox Series consoles being up 75% year over year. So, so the last report we heard from Bethesda was 6 million players, and now it's 10 million. So. Falky, what are your thoughts? What do you think about the growth and just the impact that Starfield's had so far?
Look, I'm trying to think about where to start with it. Look,
just give Xbox their flowers.
Yeah,
that'd be a good starting because this is a positive for Xbox, Falky.
No. Look. There's an awful lot of people that I talk to who were waiting for this game that have got it and have enjoyed it, and I've heard nothing but positive news from them. And I think that it is a massive, massive win for gaming as a whole. That something that was overhyped by the console warriors and then over-trashed by console warriors has come out. It's a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 at best, and people are loving it and enjoying it. And I can't put into words how happy I am, and I'm genuinely happy that people who have waited for that thing, because it was delayed 18 months, nearly 2 years, they've waited for it, they've got it, they're playing it, and they are ecstatic and happy to be playing it. And it is a great thing for the gaming industry and gamers on whole, that we don't have to pursue this 10 out of 10 perfection every time a game comes out. I think that is probably the number one point that I'd like to make. Do Xbox deserve flowers for this? Well, yes, to a degree. 10 million players didn't come from Xbox, though. 10 million players came from delivering something and having a very good ground game in their marketing strategy, because Starfield wasn't promoted like a PlayStation promotes their stuff, where they've got them all over the UEFA championship games. They've got them plastered on billboards and trains and buses and shit everywhere. It was done at a more ground level, and people that wanted to play the game have played the game. Now, 10 million players, that's amazing. That's me. 10 million people have picked it up and had a go at it. And that's engagement that you want to have. And that's a positive thing for them. The number of people who haven't actually played a lot of that game highlights that, yes, there's still a very casual gaming base that Xbox has, but I don't think it really matters in this instance. The people that wanted to play this game have got it and have sunk tens and tens, if not hundreds of hours into it. And let's be frank, the modders haven't even really gotten their teeth sunk into this thing. Once the modding community really gets into it and fills out a lot of those empty planets, I think that's where the longevity is going to come from, where people will keep dipping back into it. You might see the player count drop very, very quickly. However, those that are enjoying it are going to get a lot of life out of this game. And you know, I feel happy for them. I really do. Does 10 million players convert into something meaningful in the dollars side? I don't think it's going to have the impact a lot of people expect it will. And they talk about it, you know, sales being up at a higher level. Well, in terms of percentages and ratings on the chart, yes, but there's not much else out there selling at the moment either. So I'll reserve judgment on that. I don't expect it to be big, but I'll reserve judgment on that until they pump out the financials for the September quarter in November. But that aside, again, the people that waited for this game are enjoying playing this game, and that's what I'm happy to see.
Go ahead, Logic. I think you were getting ready to chime in.
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you. Okay. Yeah, no, you know, Falky, I will say that's one of the things that's been great around the conversation with this game is that a lot of people were excited for Starfield and have really enjoyed the game. And so, you know, and it's, look, I'm a big fan of the work that Bethesda puts out, even though Starfield is not one of the favorites of my of the Bethesda releases that I've played, but it's great to see others enjoying it too. And it's another game that we can add to the great list of games that released in 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you can add it on the list. Like as I said earlier, if it's a 7 or 8 out of 10 game, it's a big RPG game. It's a Bethesda. Nothing wrong with that. People enjoy that style. People enjoy that game. It's there. They don't all have to be 10 out of 10 absolute belters. But I mean, what's the chances of us getting another like genuine 10 out of 10 game with the expectations that people have on them and the lack of a meaningful metric or scorecard to mark games against? We're probably never going to see another 10 out of 10, genuine 10 out of 10 game. But you get something that's a 7 or an 8 and people are putting 100 plus hours into it. Oh, look, congratulations, good work. That's delivered on what it needed to do. Yeah. And yeah, again, you're supposed to enjoy the game. Enjoy it. Have fun. People are doing that. That's the win. That's the big win.
Yeah, I was telling Logic, I found my meta in that game, and that was romancing Sarah and decorating my house. I have a house in Starfield. It's like a 2-bedroom home. It's actually a pretty big house. By the way, Logic, I did figure out how to build furniture, by the way. So I started doing that, put in a couple couches.
In the Outpost menu?
Yeah, it's exactly where you said it was, yeah. No, actually in my house, there is almost like a kiosk, like on the wall that where you can go in and build furniture.
Oh, dude, hold on. Are you telling me they have a replicator in the game from Star Trek?
Yes, pretty much. That's spot on, by the way. It's basically like a replicator.
I told you, man, if you come to this game with the right cultural intelligence, meaning like the pop culture background and a lot of the like, you'll get so much more out of the game. I think that's like a great example of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's but again, I'm putting it on the back burner. All right. I do want to move on to another news item here. And look, there's been a lot of talk, as you know, Falky. I'm sure you've been keeping up with this too. The challenges at Embracer Group. And yeah, go ahead, Falky.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, sorry. Again, the delay. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So this has been documented, the issues at Embracer Group. Now, are they going through restructuring right now at Embracer? Was that the last that we heard from Embracer?
Well, earlier this year when they reported earnings, they said that they were going to go through a major restructuring, which would include layoffs and the closure of development studios. But that plan would unfold as we went throughout the year. And so this is, yet another drumbeat in that program.
Yeah, and this story's gonna tie to the layoffs. So Embracer Group has conducted layoffs at Tomb Raider developer Crystal Dynamics. So Crystal Dynamics, and this is according to an article by game developer So Crystal Dynamics' new round of layoffs comes as it ends support and delists its 2020 game Marvel's Avengers at the end of this month of September. And let's see here. I'm looking for. Do they say how many? I don't know if I was looking for a number here. I don't think they said how many people are being impacted by this layoff. Let's see here. Yeah, it doesn't say here in the article. Yeah, but yeah, so more layoffs have occurred at Embracer and subsidiaries. This time, again, Crystal Dynamics. Various staff have confirmed the departures on LinkedIn, explaining that they were informed of the cuts this morning. There are times that you should reference LinkedIn logic, and other times you should not. I'll just leave that there. Why are we talking about Lauren Boebert in the chat? By the way, are we slandering Lauren in the chat?
No slander, sir.
Come on, man. Hey, you know what? The divorce made her do it. Falky, I don't know if you follow U.S. politics, but you should Google Lauren Boebert.
Do I really want to go down that rabbit hole?
This one you probably should, man. All right. So the layoffs at Crystal Dynamics follow similar.
Give it a look.
Similar reductions at Beamdog. That's Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition early in the week, and Rainbow Studios, who make MX versus ATV. That happened earlier in the month. Embracer has restructured and closed several studios it bought up in recent years following the dissolution with a deal with Savvy Games, said to have been worth $2 billion. Last year, Embracer bought two major studios, part of their package deal, alongside Eidos Montreal, who's most people know Eidos Montreal from Deus Ex, and Square Enix Montreal, later renamed Anoma shortly before its closure. So, yeah, so things don't look so good over at the Embracer Group. Logic, thoughts on this recent round of layoffs with Crystal Dynamics under Embracer Group?
Yeah, it's hard for me to. We are talking about Crystal Dynamics, right? It's. Yes. I mean, it's not. I don't say this as a sarcastic joke or trying to take a jab at, like, there's just so many bad news stories about Embracer. It's very hard for me to keep straight which one we're talking about at any one time. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that really springs to mind as far as it being impactful, with ripples going out beyond Embracer itself, is that I struggle to believe that now this won't impact, the Perfect Dark production, even though they asserted when they initially said this that the rollout of this plan wouldn't impact that production. But I just have a hard time believing that at this point.
Yeah, let's hope there's no impact to.
Someone needs to go and confirm that, though.
Yeah, let's hope.
Sorry, someone needs to. Yeah.
Go ahead, Falky. Oh,
sorry, someone definitely needs to get a hold of the someone and find out whether that means that Perfect Dark has been affected or not, because the Tomb Raider game's been confirmed as not being affected, so it's still going. If they're dropping as many people as what they say they are, then a couple of things may have happened. Either there's a second game that they hadn't announced outside of those two, or a third game outside of those two that they hadn't announced that they were working on. They were providing support. They were being used as a studio to help with another game that's either finished or has been cancelled, or something's happened to Perfect Dark and they've dropped a heap of developers because it's gone back to rewrite or it's failed the playtest or something. Any of those three options there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this doesn't impact Perfect Dark. Selfishly speaking, Perfect Dark, the remaster, the reboot of this series franchise is one of the games that I'm looking forward to the most. So, yeah. So again, more trouble at Embracer, unfortunately.
Look, it's. I'll jump in with a few comments about it, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So part of the Embracer Group's not being run like the rest of them are. Embracer Group's being run like a hedge fund, and I've said that a heap of times.
I think you said that last
hedge
time
funds have
we
this
talked about that on the show, yeah.
Yeah, so hedge funds, for those who don't know, hedge funds and private equity firm investment funds run in a very simple pattern. Get a heap of money invested and borrow a heap of money at the same time from investors, and it either shows up as shares or it shows up as loans and then gets converted to shares, and it's all pretty simple stuff. Buy up a heap of whatever you're targeting in the industry you're targeting it in, or the industries, however your portfolio is being set up. So you buy all these companies and all this IP and all this other stuff, right? The next thing you do is you then go through and apply the razor to it, and you cut out everything. You strip it back to absolute bare minimum so that it is crawling hands and knees to basically achieve its day-to-day functionality. And most of that cutting is stripping out middle management and line level management and a heap of the workforce back to what is deemed to be like your top 20% profitability point. And the whole purpose of doing that is to just reduce costs dramatically. And it usually happens a couple of years after you've done your first round of buying. So you'll do that, and we're not talking about a 2 or 3 year plan. These guys work in 10 and 15 year plans, right? So you'll buy for a few years, then you'll have this massive restructure, which is basically just a cost cutting exercise. And you'll clean out a heap of deadwood, and you'll clean out a heap of management, you clean out a heap of crap, and you get to a point where it's basically skin and bones. There's no flesh left on it. And that's, say, years 3, 4, 4 and 5. After they do that first big cutback, they go and look at how do we operate this thing so that we start building value into the underlying asset, rather than how do we make it profitable year in, year out. Because the year-to-year return is not what they're looking at. What they're looking at is the money we invested at the start, and there's a certain number that we're aiming for at the end. And we need to make sure we hit that number. And if we go above it, that's great. If we go, there or thereabouts, that's fine. If it looks like we're not going to hit that number, then we'll have bailout point, options at certain points throughout this 10 or 15 year cycle. When they get through the back end of this cost cutting exercise, they'll have gone from 250 something games in development back to about 60. And yes, they're still in the AA space, but they're looking at pushing some of those up into the AAA space, but they're also looking for partners to invest in the development of these games. They don't want to spend their own money on it. What they'll do is, as they get these games out the door, the value of the fund, basically the value of Embracer Group, will increase over a period of time because of its quality output, as well as what IP it has managed to get and license out. Look at what they've done with Tomb Raider, and bought it for 300 million. Was it? They got Crystal Dynamics for 300 million, or Montreal, and all those. They licensed it out for 600 million. They bought up Lord of the Rings IP for TV and movies. Then they bought that for, 1.2 billion or 1.5 billion, and they've already got licensing deals out there worth $3 or $4 billion. So that's the sort of passive income they get in generating a value for this. And when you value things like IP from an accounting perspective, you value them based on the lesser of what you paid for it or what it's worth on the market. So if you bought something for 300 million, you put it in your books at 300 million. If you've got licenses for that at 600 million, well, now it's worth 600 million. You just double the value of that IP. You do that across everything Embracer Group has currently got, and you're looking 50, 60, 70%, 100% increase as an average, and you continue that on with licensing deals out 7, 10, and 12 years, what's it going to be worth at the end of this process? Keeping in mind that the day-to-day costs of having people on the payroll is sunk cost. It's just money out the door. Unless they're improving the value of the underlying assets, being the IP and the games and all that sort of stuff, you still got to generate revenue every year to keep it rolling. but you don't need 15,000 people making 250 games a year if all it's going to do is decrease the value or the quality of the games you are putting out because of a congested marketplace. This isn't going to be the only time they do the cost-cutting exercise. They'll do it again just before they go to sell it all up. So, and it might be that they sell it to another individual or singular point investment org, or they might float it on the stock market somewhere, or they might hack it up and sell it off in pieces. Who knows? The end result is in 7 to 10 years' time, this thing is going to get dismantled in a big way, most likely. So then that presents opportunities for others down the track. But they'll finish this closures and layoffs point, then they'll have a quiet period for a couple of years whilst they deliver some of their games out. Then about 18 months, 2 years before they go to do the final, valuation point, they'll have another big clean out. Same thing. They'll just hack out anything that doesn't meet a metric, purely as a desktop paper-based exercise of we want this number to say this so we can maximize our return when we sell it. And that's how Embrace Your Group's being operated. It's the same as most pension funds, hedge funds, private equity firms. They all do the same thing. In fact, to put it into analogy, most of your NFL and NBA franchises and all that sort of stuff in America, they follow a very similar pattern. Someone will buy it, come in, clean everything out, work it up to a point where it's then maximized 2, 3, or 4 times worth what they paid for it, and then they'll sell it to the next one.
Dan Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very insightful. Thank you for that, Falky. It sounds super shrewd, by the way, and I don't. It wouldn't surprise me if we see what you described in terms of them selling off assets of their acquisition or things that they've acquired ends up happening in the near future. So I do want to welcome B Money real quick. B, what's going on, man?
What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Great to have you back, B. We've missed you, man. Any thoughts on the layoffs at Crystal Dynamics?
I mean, if you look at what they actually posted, it wasn't nothing too crazy. I think it was only a handful of people, and they mostly worked in like the marketing and IT department. So
gotcha. Okay.
Really, there's nothing too crazy, but is about to implode, and what they really should do is just talk to as many publishers or first party companies, whether that's PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo, and see what assets they can sell off before they ruin a bunch of people's careers. By shutting down all of these companies, because there won't be many places for these people to go. I mean, they employ a lot of people. They employ a lot of companies. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to turn this thing around. So before it gets too bad, I would hope that, some of the big players in the industry would kind of step in and see if they are willing to offload some of those companies and try to put them in a better situation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, B. I do want to move on to we talked about B, and I'm glad you joined us tonight because I said this early in the show. 2023 has been just a phenomenal year in video games. Phenomenal, fantastic, one of the best that I can remember. One of those games that I think is going to add to that list of games that we'll be talking about of 2023 is, in fact, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which has gone gold now. And I am the game releases on October 20th. I've got my Spider-Man Special Edition bundle pre-ordered. Took me a while to a couple refreshes to get it from the Sony website, but I got it finally. So that's going to be arriving. I didn't no luck with the customized Spider-Man plates, and I don't know. I I think last time Forte was on here, we asked him if they were getting any more. It doesn't sound like that at least he's aware if his GameSpot or GameStop is going to be getting any more of those custom plates. But anyhow, it's official. Spider-Man 2's gone gold, and this is one of my most anticipated games. We saw more footage of Spider-Man 2 recently. Logic, you and I were talking about the suits, the different Spider-Man suits that they showed. And I can't tell you. I mean, I'm so excited for this game. October 20th came out. We're 4 weeks from now. I cannot wait to play this game. I think this game's going to be a great game. Insomniac are just wizards. I mean, how many games have they put out in the last couple of years? Is it 3? Well, they put out Spider-Man, they put out the Miles Morales, and now this game, Spider-Man 2.
And Ratchet and Clank.
And Ratchet and Clank, yes, Rift Apart. I mean, what does Sony pay for them, B-Money? $200 million? Was it about $200 million?
Yeah, a little pocket change, standards is pocket change.
Right, but what an acquisition, though.
I mean, it was meant to be. I mean, when you look at it, they have been working with them for so many years, and it was just kind of one of those things where they kind of let them go out there to do their own thing, and then I think Insomniac realized that the best place for them was to kind of be under that umbrella with Sony and PlayStation. So they went crawling back, and I'm sure Ted Price is probably kicking himself when he looks at all the other deals that have gone on in the industry, where he sells his company for $250 million or whatever it was, but. It's been the best asset for PlayStation this generation, man. They've produced the most content, and it's all hit a high quality bar. So you can't really be mad at them. They're definitely doing their thing.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, what they purchased wasn't necessarily IP. What they purchased was talent and a good culture, and they've allowed
because they already owned
Insomniac to continue to nurture that culture.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's critical. If you want quality output in any organization, you want a great culture with good values and strong leadership, and that's what Sony purchased when they bought them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Falky. I mean, I don't think we often, when we talk about acquisitions, we talk about the IPs and things, but it's often culture and the talent, right? We look at what Sony did with retention bonuses for Bungie, retaining that talent. But no, B. I mean, this is, I think, I don't know if you said the word chump change, but all things considering what we've seen with other acquisitions, I mean, this has been a huge benefit to Sony, acquiring Insomniac. And, they have, like you and Falky have said, they are very talented. Even the game that you remember the Xbox exclusive Sunset Overdrive? That was a great game. That's actually one of my favorite Xbox One games. And I'm really excited for Wolverine, to see what they have cooking with Wolverine. And we know that they're shifting their attention to that game. That was tweeted out by somebody at Insomniac as well, that they're moving over to start working on Wolverine. So
they've had a good portion of part of their team working on that game already. So it's just a lot of the other talent is shifting over there. They have 2 other projects that they're working on as well. So I mean, they got a lot of stuff going on in Insomniac, and this continued release schedule of content will only continue. They're going to be the one that kind of steadies the ship for PlayStation, while the other first party studios kind of get their stuff ready to go.
Yeah. Do we think because they're introducing some other characters in Spider-Man 2, other characters, other Marvel characters. We're getting Kraven being one, but B, do you think we're going to see? I mean, outside of Wolverine, do you think we're going to see other Marvel games coming out of Insomniac? Other characters?
I think it's a possibility. It's not something that I want them to do, to be totally honest. Like, what I really want them to do is give us one more Miles game. Maybe introduce Spider-Gwen in that game, just because it's been so big with Sony's the Sony Pictures movie. Maybe do that, and then give us one more Spider-Man game to end off the trilogy, and then hopefully move on to something else. But I don't know if that's their actual plan or not. But that's what I hope, and maybe the Wolverine game leads to something else as far as maybe an X-Men game down the line or something like that. And then once that is done, then they can kind of move on to something else. I don't want Insomniac to be just this Marvel Games house, because I mean they're way more talented than that, and I think we could have something really special from them that doesn't have to be tied to a Marvel property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've actually seen some of that sentiment on Twitter recently, that some gamers want them to not be like that Marvel house. But speaking of Marvel, Slomo has joined us. What's going on, Slomo?
What's up? How's it going, guys?
You sound
sorry.
Very nice.
Well, thank you. Even though this isn't the
it's not the new mic.
Well, no, this is my secondary mic I do when Forte is hosting DPS, and I'm gonna have to use this because I did all this putting away of my mic setup. I can say this real quick, and my new mic did not come with an XLR cable, and that's my fault for thinking that it did come with it, and I thought I had a backup XLR cable somewhere in this office, and I don't. So I've been searching for a cable I apparently don't have, and so I've resigned myself that I'm not going to get this thing done tonight. So it is what it is. I'm here. Hope you guys are having a good show so far. Let's do it.
Yeah, no. Glad, happy that you could make it, man. We were just talking about Spider-Man 2 going gold. Another game that we can add to the onslaught of 2023, the great games of 2023. Slomo, you excited for Spider-Man 2?
Oh yeah, day one. That's a day one for me. I'm all in. Whatever whatever premium edition, whatever thing is going, I'm probably going to end up buying that. And it's going to be a good one, man. It's going to be a good one. I think this one will be the one finally where they crack 90 on the Metacritic, I think. So,
okay.
But I do kind of I kind of heard a little bit of B Money's sentiment about Insomniac. I do think that their workflow process is really superior to what we get from a lot of studios. They've been carrying Sony first party since the beginning of this generation. And I like to see them kind of just not just do licensed IP, because with licensed IP, there's only so much creativity that you could actually push into it, because you got to honor the history of characters and certain things. Things have to be a certain way, And I love to see them go back to doing some of their own stuff. Maybe give us like a Sunset Overdrive 2. Maybe I wouldn't say bring back Fuse, because maybe Fuse needs to stay where it's at. But
just bring back Fuse now, because they could actually do it the way that they wanted to, and not the way they wanted them to do it.
Right. So that the whole process of publishers interjecting in on the creator process to say, well, we don't think that's going to sell, so don't do that. And when they hold all the cards, they are the reason why you even have the funding to even run your studio, keep the lights on, and make the game that you're going to make. You end up just bowing down to whatever they say. You're right, yeah. With now being a first-party studio, if they wanted to do a Fuse remake, they could probably do it the way they originally intended on doing it.
How about a Resistance?
I would love to see Resistance come back. I kind of feel like Sony doesn't want to approve of like Resistance and what's the other one that Guerrilla did?
Killzone.
Yeah.
Killzone. What's the? I'm brain farting on everything. What's the one that everyone wants to come back? SOCOM. Yeah. I feel like those three IP. Like if you pitch that to Sony immediately is like, I don't even care what your prototype looks like. The answer is no. Do something else. So I just kind of feel like you just can't do those games no more for some reason.
We believe in generations. Remember?
I couldn't hear you say again.
Said Sony believes in generations. Remember?
Famous words. Famous words.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Fuse.
And that
Fuse-
generation is over. They're like, we ain't doing that no more. It's
Yeah.
like, we get-
Well,
do something else.
they've come out and said that. A couple of studio heads have come out and said that, and I think it was Neil Druckmann was one of them. A couple of others have come out and said that. Herman Holster said it as well. They would lock an IP to a generation, and then they'd never touch it. So you had Crash Bandicoot on PlayStation 1, then it was Jack and Daxter on PlayStation 2, and then they went to Uncharted on PlayStation 3, and Uncharted was the first one that carried into a new generation onto the PS4, and then they just never looked back at it. Same with Sly Cooper and Siphon Filter and a heap of others. They do it for one generation and they won't bring it forward. And I don't see them changing that with the way that PS Plus is currently structured. Because unless they're going to do a full-blown remake, it'd be very difficult to get across the line on a new game for it.
Yeah, I think they typically stop at 4 games in the series, and then they're usually good with walking away from it. And we can the only 2 franchises that they haven't walked away from is are Gran Turismo and God of War. Everything else after that 4-game mark, they've walked away. So it's interesting when you kind of look at it from that standpoint, because even at Killzone, Shadowfall was the last one. We had no rumblings of Killzone after that. SOCOM 4, that was the last SOCOM game, mainline SOCOM game. No rumblings after that. And it kind of goes on from there. You know, a lot of the franchises, they stop at 4. Sly 4 was the last game. They've said, no, we're not doing any more Sly games. So they kind of get to a point where they understand that the franchise has run its course and they move on. And luckily, when they brought God of War back, it was such a big hit that it's continued. But I think if they didn't bring it back in the way that they did, I think Ascension would have been the last game, because we know that they tried to bring it back and Shuhei told them that no, that this isn't going to work. So I think they are pretty good at managing their IP and understanding when it's time to walk away.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab the super chat real quick. Samori Leafs fan says with the Canadian $2.79 super chat says, and Ratchet and Clank. Thank you for that super chat.
Oh yeah, Ratchet too.
Yeah, which
they also rebooted. So
yeah, I can dream and hope of a Resistance, but it probably won't happen. So, Logic, Spider-Man 2. I think it's day one for you as well, correct? You excited?
It's definitely a game that I want to buy. I don't. There aren't many things that I'm day one about. I day one Starfield, and I think that was like the first thing I've day one since some Forza game and maybe Destiny 2. But yeah, I'll definitely be playing it.
Yeah. Did you get the collector's edition?
I did not, but sitting here listening to you guys hype it up, I almost logged into the PlayStation Store. I think one thing, because I've been recently replaying some of Miles Morales, and one of the things that stands out to me now that I'm kind of going back and looking at it in isolation and not surrounded by a bunch of other games, is the soundtrack. I love that soundtrack, and one of the questions I have is, man, I wonder if with the instant swapping of Peter and Miles, I wonder if the music is going to shift when you change characters.
That's a great question. I didn't think about that.
I would assume so. Yeah. I would assume it would kind of change, because if you play the both games, they both have their own kind of like theme.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the soundtrack is very much a character of the Miles Morales game that completely separates it from the other Spider-Man game.
Are you talking about the exaggerated swagger of
I mean his walk too, but I just mean like with the hip hop beats underlying the kind of the Marvel, the MCU kind of style music, just makes it like, it just gives that game a completely different character. And so yeah, I really hope it does. I mean, like we said, Insomniac or Wizards, that's the exact kind of attention to detail that I think that they would do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I do like that they added a parry to the combat.
I did like that. Yeah, it's great addition.
Even though I'm terrible at parrying in games, but I'm glad it's there. You know, because I'm going to try to be good at it. Simply because I found both of the first two games to be incredibly easy, and I played them both on the hardest difficulty, and it still was easy. And it's just like, I know it's Spider-Man, and you want to make sure it's accessible to all demographics, especially kids. Like my son is playing it, Spider-Man 2018 remastered on his PC for the first time, loving it. But my son is, he's just getting into gaming. He's abysmal at, like, he's swinging all, like he's not letting go to pull, to web and keep swinging. I'm like, what are you doing? He's just like hanging back and forth, and it's just like, what is happening? Like that, he's not reading the prompts. I'm like, they're telling you what to do. Please, just do what they say. I'm like, you know what? Let me stop backseat gaming. Just let him figure it out and learn. He's getting better, but I understand that, like, he is the demographic of the kind of gamer that doesn't play those kind of games, but because it's Spider-Man, he's going to play that kind of game. And why they think, oh, let's just make it ultra easy. But this is also where you got difficulty settings. So let him play on rookie or whatever the heck the lowest setting is, and let spectacular, which is the highest setting, be something that's actually challenging. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, they got fall damage now. I'm turning fall damage on. I'm going to be trying to parry everything. I have fall damage on. I'm trying to make it as hard as possible, basically. But I like that they've made a lot of quality of life changes and just evolving on the foundation that they already had the game built upon that was already very good. And all these things are the reason why I think that it's going to hit a 90 or meta, especially considering they're doing ray tracing for all modes. And even with performance mode, it's going to have ray tracing on. And I 1000% believe it'll still be running at 60 frames per second. Unlike some other games that force ray tracing on and couldn't handle that,
Or unlike some flagship games that don't have ray tracing implemented at all.
Oh, yeah.
Or an FOV slider. Or brightness and contrast. Anyhow, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I wonder who you're talking about. No,
I don't. I mean, this is 2023. I don't know.
Yeah, who needs an FOV slider? Don't you like it at 60? No, I don't. But yeah. I just think it's gonna be really good. Can't wait. I can't wait a little bit because I got so much to play. Cyberpunk tomorrow. I've been playing First Descendant this week. I love it. And I finished Starfield on Monday, and I'm not picking that back up until they at least implement DLSS, or maybe that DLC that was leaked comes out or something. I don't know, but it's there. But I'm playing too many games right now to really slow down.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. That's a great problem to have, Slow-Mo, and it's a great segue to this one game I want to talk about real quick. Before I get to that game, though, Falky, I think you have how much more time do you have left? If we have to go, because I might want to get this topic in.
Go about 25 minutes before the next meeting.
All right, so let me we're gonna pivot here a little bit. I want to go to because I kind of want to segue to what not right now though, but go back and segue to what Slow-Mo was talking about in terms of the games he's playing, and this goes back to 2023 and the game that's
BRAP.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, I really hate to do this, but just a suggestion. Yeah. Since Falky only has 25 minutes left, and I really, really, really think that we need to get an explanation of accountability margin on air.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
That's
sorry.
exactly where I'm going. Yeah. So, and that's why we have Falky on here today, because I'm seeing the posts on Twitter again. You have people who don't understand what's being presented to them, running off and, shooting from the hip with narratives. So Falky, and this is an article, this is part of the leaks, one of the newer leaks. The Xbox profits revealed in new FTC leak. This is according to Derek Strickland at Tweaktown. I by the way, I do not like the name of the website Tweaktown. It makes it sound like people Anyhow, I'm not going to go there. Anyhow. All right. According to the article by Derek Strickland, newly leaked documents reveal our first real look at Xbox profits. Derek reports that Microsoft is very selective in what data it releases on its various divisions. This includes gaming, which is now Microsoft's fourth best earning business in terms of revenue, with $15.4 billion earned in fiscal year 23. Every quarter, Microsoft will report three metrics on the Xbox business. Those metrics are content and services earnings, hardware revenues, and a finalized Xbox gaming number. Sometimes Microsoft will also release a new Xbox Game Pass figure, but they haven't done that for some time. We don't know what the Xbox Game Pass subscription numbers, even though one particular website went off someone's LinkedIn profile, which was then changed. But anyhow, and let me link this article here to everyone in the live chat if they want to follow along here. Give me a second here. I'm going to dump this here in the live chat if you want to go look at the article. All right. So this is a big the article goes on to state this is a big departure from Nintendo and Sony, both of which reveal revenue and profit numbers for their gaming businesses. Microsoft, however, has never discussed Xbox profits. Now, thanks to a series of documents and files that were accidentally leaked as part of the FTC versus Microsoft federal trial, we now have an idea of how healthy Xbox actually is. So now, Falky, I'm assuming you've seen this report.
Yes.
Okay, and I get the sense you're chuckling here, but so tell us about what accountability margin is, and what you, being a financial analyst, being a numbers guy, what you got from the big three profits, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, from this report and from this leaked report.
So I'll start off with the caveat that I'll start off with the apology for being slow-mo. I know you guys hate it when I talk business. So I apologize for the next 20 minutes.
You're good, bro.
I would much rather be talking.
I'd
much rather be talking about games than this.
No, you're good, man. I put on my thinking cap. I'm all locked in. Let's go.
Slow-mo's also probably playing the game too.
Right.
That's it.
Good. Keep yourselves entertained. This is going to get boring as shit for most people. Right. Accountability margin is almost a completely made up term. That is not a commonly used term within financial analytics. It's not a commonly used term within any kind of profitability or any kind of analysis. It does get used occasionally by large corporations when they're trying to work out or trying to state what a more attributed result is when you've got large amounts of costs or revenue that are not dispersed across multiple business segments. It's a very poor way of trying to shortcut to get to a number. Now, it means there's a few things going on here, and first and foremost, from my understanding and my investigation / research on this, what they're doing is not illegal necessarily. It's not a bad business practice. It's a common business practice, and it's not unusual to see it in multinational corporations, especially with the complexities that someone like Microsoft or an institution like Microsoft would have. So how do we get to that? Well, Microsoft has always said in its financial statements that they don't necessarily attribute costs across all business segments. They will sit all the costs in with the business segment that has the largest portion of that cost. And there's some people on Twitter today have been back and forth about that when I've mentioned it to them. But basically, all the cloud infrastructure costs will sit with the cloud segment. All the Azure infrastructure costs will sit with the Azure segment. All the Microsoft Windows OEM costs will sit with the OEM segment. And that's the business segment, not the personal computer segment or the home Microsoft Office home segment. So because if they went to try and spread it out across the organization, because this is all stuff that they've built themselves, right? It's It's all an internal cost. So they know how much it costs to make it, and they know how much it costs to run it. But trying to attribute those costs across the whole organization when everybody's using it, you need a basis to do it on. Are you doing it on number of licenses internally? Well, they're not going to sell licenses to themselves because you're not allowed to do that. Do you do it on headcount? Do you do it on, if you do it on headcount, then obviously there could be a higher usage for those with the lower headcount than there is the other way around. Do you do it on access points? Do you do it on geographical location? What do you do it on? And that's the first question that an accountant will ask. Like, that's the first question I would ask anytime I've gone into an organization and they've said, we want to do this. I say, right, how do you want to apportion it? And they'll go, oh, we think we want to do this, this, and this. I say, right, let's take a step back. Why do you want to apportion it? Does it actually make any difference at all internally where this cost sits? Does it make any difference to the external reporting where these costs sit? Because you're going to spend, for someone like Microsoft, you'd have a team of 30 or 40 accountants purely doing cost allocations and eliminations using a system, and it'll cost you northwards of $100,000 per accountant. So there's $3 or $4 million worth of cost just to do of labor costs, plus all the they got to have a desk, they got to have a computer, they got to have this, that, and everything else. So you could be looking at $5 million just to do apportionments out, and then you've got to offset them and eliminate them all when you do your annual accounts. So if you could save $5 million by just not doing it, you'd do that, wouldn't you? So, and it's all just an internal function, an external function. None of this is illegal. It's all correct, because the net result at the end of the day that they're reporting to the SEC and the shareholders is this is a true picture of Microsoft as a whole. The only people who care about it being hacked up and split up internally is internal management. So when you get to this idea of accountable margin or accountability margin, it doesn't have all the costs in it because the costs aren't being apportioned out. They're sitting somewhere else. And to say that accountability margin is the same as net profit is the most asinine and stupid thing anyone could say. I'm try to be a nice person, but if you think accountability margin equals net profit, you are an idiot. A dead set fucking idiot. They are not even close. And I'll tell you why they're not close. Any kind of operating profit margin or operating profit or operating income or accountability income or accountability margin, anything like that, does not factor in amortization, depreciation, SG&A costs, which is selling, general and administration costs. So basically all your overhead costs. It doesn't factor in any of your ancillary costs from other divisions. It doesn't factor in any development costs and roster or anything like that. So you can't use it to match it up against someone's operating profit. Someone's
Is he breaking up
operating
everyone
income
else?
or any sort of stuff.
Falky, you're breaking up there, man.
So this report, and then the graph that Derek's put out there that's created a storm. And I don't hold anything against Derek Tweak 10 for putting that graph together. Sorry, can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah,
Yep.
you were breaking up
Can
there,
you hear me?
Falky. Yeah, Falky, can you hear us?
Sorry, what was the last thing I got to?
You were breaking up. You said something about.
I can hear.
We just lost Falky. And he's back now. All right, Falky, can you hear us?
Can I? Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear. Yeah, you were kind of botting in and out there. I think
Sorry.
the last thing that I heard you say was that you can't compare accountability margin to actual profits or something. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Sorry, Australian. Yes, so you can't compare accountability margin with growth with operating income or operating profit or anything like that, because they're all different metrics, include and exclude different costs, and the revenue parts are different. Now, Derek from Tweaktown put that graph out, and credit to him for trying to get things into a graphical illustration. Graphs are really good for comparison points, and managers love graphs, pretty colors on a page. And more credit to him for putting the disclaimer at the top, which said what he was using to build those graph numbers. The problem is, what he's putting in there as a comparative point can't be compared to each other. You can't compare net revenue with net sales. They are calculated differently, and they're both calculated differently to straight revenue. You can't compare operating income with operating profit because they are slightly different, and you can't compare either of those two, particularly with accountability margin, because, again, there's numbers that are included and excluded from a revenue and a cost perspective. The only way you can do a genuine comparison between how two individual companies are tracking in a industry, tracking them across different industries, has got a multitude of other things that need to be factored in. But and this is 90 to 95% comparative, right? If you're going to compare company A with company B, the only two metrics that will give you any kind of close indication is EBITDA, so earnings before income tax, depreciation and amortization, because that factors in every cost that they've incurred from business decisions in the P&L before taxes are applied and before depreciation rates and amortization rates are applied, because they are discretionary in how they get calculated. EBITDA is the first one from the profit and loss that you can compare. And the other one is the free cash flow, because free cash flow will tell you whether they're spending more or less to run that company, not just in their profit and loss, but in what they've invested in terms of assets, what they've spent in terms of what they've incurred in terms of borrowing, and what they've spent in terms of paying off short-term debts and their accounts payable and all receivables and all that. So EBITDA and free cash flow are the only two, if you want to get a good idea about comparing companies, they're the two numbers you look at. But the business decisions across companies is so different. And if you want to, again, PlayStation and Xbox, what PlayStation do in their business model is completely different to what Xbox does in its business model. So to try and compare them, again, is pointless. They're in two totally different playing fields. They're not even playing the same sport in the same country, as an analogy. It's like one's playing basketball in Spain and the other one's playing football in America. They're not even close, but they exist in the same marketplace. So by nature, everyone wants to compare them. Now, this accountability margin, for the amount of costs that it doesn't include, yet people are running around saying, hey, look, it's profitable. Well, yeah, on the stand, Phil Spencer said Xbox is profitable for them, meaning the way that Xbox as its own segment within Microsoft does its internal management reporting is showing that it's profitable for them, for Phil and his team. Again, it's not including a heap of costs that are sitting with cloud and Azure and OEM and Windows and all the rest of it. They're not having to pay or any contributions to any of that stuff. So, of course, it's going to be profitable for them because all they're looking at is payroll and occupancy costs. That's it. Most organizations that are running massive deficits or massive losses on their P&Ls would look great if they didn't have to pay for most of that stuff. So it's a fugazi. It's a pointless number to have out there because all it's going to do is create huge amounts of engagement for someone to make a crap ton of money off Twitter or X or whatever they call it today. It might be something different tomorrow. And it's not a comparable point. But if you want to go down that rabbit hole, we can and say, right, well, if you look at PlayStation on that graph versus Xbox versus Nintendo, Nintendo is absolutely spanking the ass off the other two in terms of its profitability, which is great. but it also means that they're not investing a lot of money into what they're doing. They're either taking that profitability and pouring it into their R&D, or they're taking that profitability and they're handing it back to their shareholders, which is not great if you consider there's a new Switch coming next year. I would think that it's probably going to the R&D and the production costs for that, which you would expect to see a massive increase in production costs hitting the P&L hitting the inventory while they start manufacturing this stuff. And that won't show up in profitability numbers. If you're spending money to make stuff and hold it in stock and inventory, it doesn't show up in the P&L, sits in the balance sheet. Totally separate report you need to look at. So that number's not telling us anything other than they're not spending a lot of money on their people to develop and sell games internally. The Xbox number, higher profitability, yeah, that's great. It's $81 million more, 5% increase, but it's only $81 million more on that graph than what Sony is or PlayStation is. Well, if you're looking at percentages, the underlying numbers are what matter. But if you've got a higher percentage in profit, and it's the same for all three of them, a higher percentage in profit means that you are either taking that money and giving it to the shareholders, or you're taking that money and you're investing it in something else within the organization that is not part of your day-to-day runnings and operations. Xbox might have a higher profitability, but they're certainly not reinvesting it into their people or their development or anything like that that's going to have an immediate impact on the consumer. And likewise, you look at PlayStation, it's the same thing. They're spending an awful lot of money in their day-to-day operation to keep delivering whatever it is they're delivering, and they would be writing off their profitability or the cash flow. I know their free cash flow is negative at the moment because they're taking what little profitability they have and they're pouring it into their R&D for their next round of whatever the PS5 Pro or the PS Portable or whatever the hell that handheld thing is. So they're all very different business models doing different things. So to sit there and say, oh, this number's higher than that number, therefore Xbox is a winner. No, that's not how this works. If anything, Nintendo's the winner if you're looking at profitability margin, but then what's the longevity of it? Anytime anyone reads a set of financial reports that knows what they're looking at, the first thing that it says after the table of cover page, table of contents, the first thing it says is, this report must be read in its entirety to understand what's going on. And you can't just pull a snippet number out and go, these guys are winning, therefore this is that. So whoever's, and these leaks are coinciding with a heap of other stuff that's going on. It's not going to make any impact to the current ABK stuff. And it's probably not going to have an impact to a lot of regulatory stuff like a heap of people running around saying it will. What it may do, though, is it may bring to light the difference between these business models and just how much of a struggle it is to make gaming as a service or not gaming as a service, to make subscription services actually run profitable. So, yeah, I'm not terribly happy with, from a professional perspective, terribly happy with how people are taking this and going, oh, accountability margin must mean net profit, and ergo Xbox is winning big time, because they're not. They're not. You can't compare them. Therefore, there's no winner. It's a one-horse race for each horse that's in it, basically.
What's hilarious to me is how somebody would jump on that as a banner man, right? As a flag waving thing, like when literally it is the first time that they have ever even heard the term accountability margin.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to go chatting to a couple of friends of mine in the industry to see if they still used that term. And it's mostly an Americanism. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a standard. I shouldn't say it's a standard. It's an old school business practice from late 80s, early 90s American reporting that has hung around. It's changed slightly in what it means, but yeah, I haven't heard that for ages. Well, I'll just divert slightly. In terms of all the leaks that came out, this profitability thing is probably the biggest non-event that's occurred. But what's being glossed over now is all the crap that came out from the 2020 time period with we're going to buy these guys, we're going to buy these guys, we're going to go after this, we're going to do all that. People are running around going, oh, they're going to buy Nintendo, they're going to buy Sega, they're going to buy Square, they're going to buy all these. Look at the dates on those reports, guys. 2020, and they were saying they were going to do all this stuff, and it coincides with what came out during the FTC thing with Matt Booty saying we're going to spend PlayStation out of existence and we're going to buy Nintendo doors. That's great. That was early 2020. 3.5 years later, what have they actually achieved? What have they actually achieved? They didn't get anyone that was on their original list. They ended up having to go for the biggest one because of a capitalization of a bad situation, just to try and get Bobby out of it. And there's still no guarantee that that's going to go through, and we won't find out for a month. And they got laughed out of the building when they approached Nintendo, and Phil's sitting there saying, oh, we're going to play the long game here. Play the long game to do what exactly? They're effectively protected. They're a national security, a national economic security protection. There's no way that they're going to just freely say, yeah, sure, Microsoft can have Nintendo, whatever they feel like, when Nintendo's, a very profitable and very stable business. And everyone else that was on that list, they haven't even gotten close. We hear every year, oh, they're going to buy Sega, they're going to buy Sega. But I've been hearing that for 10 years. If he's playing a long game, what's the outcome of his long game here? Is he going to just try and put everyone to sleep? Like, the shareholder, being a shareholder of Microsoft, I can tell you now that they're not. The shareholders are very, very keen in the current environment to see an increase in earnings per share. Otherwise, it's either sell it or shut it down. And they're at the bottom of the totem pole still. They've committed to spend $70+ billion in acquisition, and in something that's not really showing a high percentage return. They've had to sacrifice so much just to try and get the thing across the line that it's eating into that profitability that may or may not have even been there. I don't know how much more of an indictment about poor management practice and borderline, I don't know the nice way of saying it is, but borderline, corporate hostilities towards other players in the market. The shit that they said about Baldur's Gate 3, how can the management team still be in existence with that? And then you look at the split, the Series S is being avoided like the plague because of different reasons from different developers, and they've still got the same person doing the refresh for. There was a lot more that came out in this week and a bit. Old information, but still, when you look at what they said then and where they've landed now, how much more of a chance does that management team need to be given to actually do something worth a damn?
Yeah, I think that's another conversation. But no, I mean, I think the leaks were kind of interesting because one, we got a hardware roadmap. We got the refreshes of the Series X console, and we found out the Series S is, I guess, selling 75% of consoles sold for Xbox over the Series X, which I was surprised. But no, Falky, I'll say this about, and we've talked about in length about the leadership at Xbox. There's been some issues there, clearly. I think there's a reason why they have had challenges in the gaming console space. But I think we'll see with the recent acquisition. I think the acquisition of Activision. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. So, but
Absolutely.
I don't think anything's changing as far as management goes for them until after they a lot of the first party studio games come out, and where they are with Game Pass and overall revenue and the health of the Xbox business itself at that point.
Yeah.
So you're gonna need to see how the impact of Fable, Avowed, like these studios, like the bulk of the studios they acquired back in 2018 that still haven't dropped games yet. You're gonna need to see those games. You're gonna need to see what happens with ABK a good 2 years after the acquisition, once all of the marketing ties to Sony are no longer gone. Because really, if you're thinking about, well, do I need to move on from this current management team in order to make this go further? You gotta take out all of the you have to get a resolution to a lot of the initiatives they put forward. And if the resolution is this was good, this was mid, this was terrible, or whatever, or if it's all bad, or if it's all good, then you make your decisions from there. But in 2023, when the bulk of their games still haven't dropped yet, I don't think Satya is moved yet at all. Or probably right now he might be still pretty confident on them, but if he's going to lose faith, it's going to be somewhere. It's going to be like the year 2025, 2026, where he's losing faith, and this is because those games came out and they were disasters. Fable turned out not to be well, and it was like the first time Playground failed. Obsidian's game sucked, and it's like, it's Obsidian. How did their game suck? That's when it's like, all right, because the focus of this whole entire thing is gaming, and forget all, like, you very eloquently broke down something about business stuff, and I don't get it, but I give it to you, give you your flowers. That's the stuff but like when it comes down to it in the gaming arena, if you don't make games that people want, no one's gonna come buy your stuff. you could put
Exactly.
and the Nintendo Switch is a piece of garbage. It was garbage the day it launched. The reason why it's successful, games.
Exactly.
No other reason. So if you got the games, people will do what they gotta do. I gotta get Game Pass. I gotta buy this little speaker, this little Xbox speaker you got here. Cool. They'll buy whatever they gotta buy because you got awesome content. But if you ain't got awesome content, it could be the most powerful console in the world. But what am I playing on it though? And that's all that really matters. So like they got. We'll see what happens when the games drop. And I think if you look at that one email Phil had about the content drought in 2022, I think he understands that. Because like that, if I was a part of the Xbox leadership that email was addressed to, I would feel a little pressure myself, because the way he was talking was like, this can't ever happen again. Like, this better not happen again, because we can't go a whole year with just Pentiment, a AA game, and that's the only first party content that we delivered for our platform. Nah, that can't happen. So I think it's before a change is going to happen. It's going to be due some years from now. It's going to be due to the content. Absolutely.
Yeah. So and you've absolutely nailed it right on the head. And I know I talk about business stuff all the time, but the thing that sucks for me is they need money to make games, and companies like Nintendo and PlayStation, which are the leading, like, if they're not
garbage. I hate Streamlabs.
They're all pretty rubbish at the moment, aren't they?
Oh yeah, like I'm always fighting with OBS.
Yeah,
OBS is supposed to be the best one. I'm always fighting with it.
Yeah, it's I had to hit it, froze it. I hit end stream, and then I hit stream again, but it's not It's not picking up.
They're saying it's back now. There's like multiple people.
It looks like it's back up now.
Okay. Are they? Can they hear us?
Did you stop stop streaming on Streamlabs? Yeah, I see it. It's back now. Although I'm just seeing the backdrop. I don't see the icons anymore.
All right, let me do this real quick. There we go. That should.
So guys, this is what happened. Like Falky was talking, and Enrique fell asleep, and then like his head like fell down and hit something on his keyboard, and it just ended the stream. So we apologize. It's all on Enrique. But mostly Falky and Enrique.
No, it was Phil Spencer heard Falky talking, got upset, shut the stream down. Yeah, that was really weird. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. Gregor Von Doom says I blame Forte. It's probably Forte's fault.
It probably is. It probably is. You know, so, like we have to find some way to blame him. It's definitely his fault.
Yeah, so we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but
so one question I want to ask: Did you read the cohesive hybrid compute vision from the leaks?
I did not. No, we did not read that. Are you saying did I read that or did we?
Yes, you. Yeah.
Oh no, I did. I don't think. No, I don't think I read that.
I read it, but I didn't really understand too much of it.
Is that something you've been talking about, Logic, about the future of?
Yeah. Let me say in no uncertain terms. What did I fucking tell you?
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead. Flesh it out for those who don't know what that is.
This is exactly what I said they were talking about when he was doing the interviews for the mea culpa for Redfall, right? When they were talking about what the future of the Xbox Vision was, when they were talking about that they couldn't be out consoled, was that the whole point of what they were skating towards was an entirely new way of making games, which is going to be deployed to this thing, the cohesive hybrid compute, which I said was about enabling people to play together on console, PC, mobile, and in the cloud, and have none of them be a second-class citizen, and for them to be able to play at parity, so that the guy playing on mobile would be able to play a first-person shooter, right, against the guy on console, and that there would be balancing and arbitration so that those two players would be equal. And this is what that future is. And I said that they were trying to get to this thing by next gen, that it was not a deal that was going to be completed this generation, that the engineering that would be required would be about making games in a totally different way than they're made today, and that it would be something that they would be trying to get staged for next generation. And that is pretty much exactly what this vision says. Not saying it's going to be successful. That not saying that, but I said this is exactly what they were skating towards, and here we are again.
Yeah,
it's a long way between here and 2028. I know there's enough time to sink into the engineering requirements for it, but that's a long time to carry the division and try and realize that. Jeez.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's clearly something that the multi-trillion-dollar company is investing in, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I can't remember which FTC document it was that got leaked that had it in there, but there was that question to Phil about Game Pass subscriptions, and he'd made the comment that at the time it was 25 million and growth had stalled, effectively stopped for 8 or 9 months. And if it had been 25 million and then 8 or 9 months up to that point, and unless Starfield's really kicked it up, it's going to be interesting if they can get to there. Like, they're going to need those first party games in next year. They'll have to start dropping them next year. Otherwise, what's the price rise going to get?
I think mobile's the play for them, and I think kind of like I think you and I have discussed this, Logic, off air, where they're willing to spend the money, lose the money to get people into that ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be between now and 2028, right? But I mean, part of the Game Pass formula is, look, the people they just they just voluntold that you're going from games with gold to Game Pass. That's going to create a bump in numbers, right? You're going to get some slight lift from Call of Duty players and new Call of Duty players entering the market. You're going to get a slight lift from, and I don't know, I'm not saying that these are going to be millions of numbers, but you're going to get a slight lift from Starfield, right? Some between Starfield and maybe if Forza hits, some slight lift from the notion of, like I keep saying, the types of games that now that guy or girl in Best Buy or GameStop can say, hey, here's a reason for you to buy an Xbox. They're going to get some slight lift from that. I think over the years between now and 2028, right, the rest of it is going to come from, like you said, mobile. And I think between now and then, we're going to see a lot of, what some might argue is arguably gross stuff. But you're going to see business contrivances that I think are ways to get people into Game Pass. Like you and I have talked about on mobile. You're going to get some type of Game Pass on mobile. I said when they flipped people when they put out the announcement they're flipping from games with gold to Game Pass Core, I said that is not the last subscription plan that you're going to see for Game Pass. You're going to see a Game Pass mobile that's going to incentivize, right, people who play King games to say, hey, rather than you worry about being nickel and dimed for every single little mobile game, here's a subscription where you just pay a single fee and you get access to all these games. Or you're going to see some other gross contrivance like, hey, you can't buy like individual stars anymore, but you can subscribe, and then that's the way you can get stars. So you can either play the game free to play and earn stars in game at some, grotesquely slow rate, or you could just pay the subscription fee and you'll get X number of stars per month. Oh, by the way, when you do that, you automatically become a Game Pass member, and now our numbers go up. So I think between here and 2028, you're going to see things like that are going to cause their numbers to bump.
They're going to need to see that. Shareholders will need to see that translate into earnings, though. And I'll tell you what can get thrown in the bin is this notion of paying $30 early access to get something that's supposed to be day and date, day one on Game Pass, and then having to pay extra money to get it a few days early, and you still have to have Game Pass. That can get in the bin. You might as well just sell the game at that point. Anyway, sorry, I gotta head off, lads. But thanks for the chat. Thanks for putting up with my boring TED talk, and sorry for crashing your computer and making Enrique fall asleep.
It's no problem, bro. You're good. You're good, man.
All right. Keep safe, lads. Have a good one. I'll see you on the next time.
Take care, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Falky. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So I do want to, unless anyone has any additional thoughts on the leaks, and I did a BRAP rant, I think it was yesterday, about the leaks, but yeah, go ahead.
Player, that's another thing. Yeah, things like the Game Pass ad-supported tier.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the leaks, gentlemen, before we move on to the last topic of the evening?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So, Slow-Mo, before we got into, because actually what Falky was discussing was a new leak that just came out about the profits, revenue of Xbox, but and that was by the leaked documents. But Slow-Mo, before we were discussing that, you had talked about we're talking about Spider-Man 2, being another game we're all looking forward to playing in 2023. But this has been the onslaught, as I've been calling it, of great games coming out in 2023 continues. We just got Lies of P, which I think is about Metacritic 81. Last I checked, Mortal Kombat 1. It's so weird calling Mortal Kombat 1. That just released as well. It currently sits at a hold on a sec here. Metacritic's not loading up for me now.
Yeah, Metacritic looked like it was broken when we started the podcast.
Really?
Yep.
Nothing's working tonight. All right. Well, if I can't go to Metacritic, I'm going to go to OpenCritic. All right, it's currently Metacritic. OpenCritic has Mortal Kombat 1 at an 86%. And then CyberPunk, which we talked about the BRAP DM today, Cyberpunk 2077's latest DLC, Phantom Liberty, is currently an 89 Metacritic right now. And it is certainly something I'm looking forward to. Slow-mo. One of the reviews, IGN actually said, the person who wrote the IGN review said that they said in their review of Cyberpunk Edge Runners that CD Projekt Red had a blueprint for where to go with Cyberpunk 2077. And that review, they're saying Phantom Liberty shows the studio already had exactly that in mind, between a more sophisticated level of storytelling. Now, Slobo, I know you enjoyed Edge Runners, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the anime. Yeah, it was very, very good.
That was, let me tell you, how good was that? So good that you actually went back and I think played the game and built up that character build, right?
Yeah, that was for my second playthrough, and it was awesome. It was playing that game without having to deal with the constant nagging minor bugs, but also the major bugs that were at times preventing you from finishing missions, preventing you from furthering the story, nearly preventing me from actually finishing the game. That stuff just makes you just want to finish it as quickly as possible and uninstall. But like not having to worry about that and being able to focus in on how diverse the combat systems are, how you can build certain kind of characters and just really just get deep into Night City and that world and just do all the various activities that they had in the game. It's really good. It's a really good game. And there was always a really good game there. It was very much overshadowed by a lying executive board at CDPR who put not only like their developers in really terrible positions, but the gamers that spent money on like full price money on a broken game. They lied and said that game was running quote unquote surprisingly well on last gen, and it did not. It was a broken mess. It was probably one of the buggiest games I've ever played on PC, and that was the best version. So for them to go from where they were to where they are now, I'm glad. I'm happy for the developers because you can tell they definitely were passionate when they made this game and the work they put in. And the fact, even though Red Engine is being kind of discontinued because going forward with the Witcher remake they're doing, Unreal Engine 5, the next Cyberpunk game they're going to make is going to be on Unreal Engine 5. They're kind of done with the Red Engine at this point, but for them to still continue on and have such a robust suite of ray tracing options and then take that further with path tracing being the first game to show path tracing to that degree, to be one of the first studios to work with NVIDIA in implementing a optimized DLSS over what's the word I'm looking for? Upscaler that actually takes ray tracing into account. I actually watched a really good Digital Foundry video where they interviewed CDPR developers and NVIDIA engineers and how they broke down certain issues with DLSS's denoiser that prevented so DLSS is always like trying to make things stable and make the performance great, but in order to do so, it's just very much counter to how ray tracing was working. It was literally lowering the quality of the visual that you're seeing in ray tracing in order to make sure that the performance is there. And now DLSS 3.5 is going to take into account the ray tracing so that it's not providing like such lower base resolutions for some of these features and effects. And just all that stuff is fascinating, and the amount of work they put in on a game that people told them like just let Cyberpunk die. Hey, we got this money. We sold 13 million copies. We ain't selling much more after this. let's just cut and run, pretend like this never happened. But instead, they really just put the work in and made the game the way it should have been in the first place. And frankly, like, I haven't played it yet. I know it's live now for the 2.0 update, not Phantom Liberty, but the actual like revamp of the skill trees and the way they changed up ray tracing and all the other stuff. And I think DLSS 3.5 may be live now in there right now. If you're on PC, you can play all that right now. But I'm not gonna get into it, jump into it until tomorrow. But just the amount of work that they put in on a dead engine essentially to make sure that the game is meeting the level of quality that they intended is awesome. And if what I've seen from the B-roll footage that they showed today, that's the best looking game I've ever seen. If that is the case, if I play that game tomorrow and it looks just like what I saw in the footage today, I'm literally, no game looks better than that. I mean, character downs. I've said before, I think Decima Engine with Gorilla has them on character models, but their ability with lighting, global illumination, screen space reflections, ray tracing, path tracing, like they are tops in the industry on all that stuff. But the character models I saw today, they're on par with like Horizon Forbidden West with the way I saw that. And I'm just like, that's freaking amazing. If they have achieved that with this, then yeah, that best looking game I've ever seen. But I mean, it remains to be seen because I haven't seen it for myself yet. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I played Cyberpunk 2077. I didn't have there was performance issues, and I bought it at release, so there was definitely performance issues. I bought it. At the time I was playing on my 2070. There were performance issues. I would toggle using ray tracing off, ray tracing on. Obviously, I actually would run the game with DLSS on, I think maybe balance mode or performance mode. I don't remember, but I didn't have a lot of the issues. I shouldn't say that. I had issues, but not some of the really bad issues that other gamers had. And I was able to kind of get through the game. I just remember, like, God, the performers would just tank. Like and when you got to the city, and all those NPCs are like, the performance would just tank. Like I would drop like 30, 48 frames. Like literally, it was bad. It was just like literally chugging, stuttering. It was bad. But I was able to make my way through the game, and there was a good foundation there. The story was great. The back was intriguing. I've always been on the fence about what's his face. Keanu Reeves. Because I felt like he just played like a typical Keanu character. I didn't really find him compelling, but
he's being Keanu.
Yeah.
I've heard Idris Elba is amazing.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Saying he killed his role.
That's what some of the reviews are saying too about Idris Elba. That his performance is outstanding. The dialogue, the writing. I mean, it's just the story. I mean, everything.
I did hear it was a little boring in the beginning. They do a lot of well, that's for Phantom Liberty. It's about 10 to 12 hour expansion DLC, and they added a new neighborhood called Dogtown, and it's just like, for the storyline, it's not like, in the very beginning, it's not all that interesting, and then it really like ramps up quickly. But like, that's like people just trying to talk without giving any like details or anything like that, of course. But
that's typically how it works with all of their expansions, even like just their base games. It always takes like a little bit. Like it always starts off slow. You're trying to like get your bearings and figure out what's going on, and then once you actually get into the story, it really gets going. So
yeah,
I kind of expect that from them.
Yeah, I'm excited. The only thing that can pull me away from First Descendant is this game right now. So
again, this is a good problem to have in 2023. Like, I'm coming off of, like Baldur's Gate 3, which I'll get back to, Starfield, which I'm going to get back to, and now this. I mean, this is just incredible. And then prior to that, all the other good games it released.
They revamped the skill trees.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then they also added a new segment to the skill tree. So like the thing that's in your head that's killing you, the relic, it now can give you powers or abilities. So like and I've looked at some of it. It seems like I've seen like screenshots of people using the relic skill tree to like get like advanced targeting, almost kind of like VATS, from a Fallout, where you can kind of see like weaknesses. And
love the VATS.
Which,
I love the VAT system.
I hate VATS. but then they also
Starfield
have
needs
like
VATS.
Additional abilities from like certain weapons, like like I love the monowire. And there's a part of the skill tree that gives you additional like options with that too, as well as the gorilla arms.
That was nasty, Slow-mo.
Yeah, that with the Sandevistan.
Oh my gosh, man!
OP combo, OP combination.
Now that was based off that bill was based off of who was it? I forget what character it was in the anime series.
David Gonzalez.
Was it David Gonzalez?
The main character? Yeah.
Was it him? I thought it was the female that.
Oh, Lucy. Yeah, Lucy has the monowire. See, that's the great thing about Edge Runners is that they took literally everything from the game. The soundtrack in the anime is the soundtrack from the game.
It is, yeah.
The city is an exact replica of how it is in the game. Even the Ripper Doc that works on David Gonzalez and gives him all of his cybernetics you can go find that same Ripper Doc in the game and pay him to do work on you too. Like it's some of the characters
so good, Slow-mo. Oh my god! Like, I might go back. Like, is it still on Netflix? I'd love to go back and watch it, man. It was so good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Kind of a bittersweet ending, but what do you expect of Cyberpunk? It's Night City. It's supposed to be like there's no like hunky dory, rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah, it's definitely a Night City ending for sure. Yeah.
Right. But I'm excited to get into it, and I think it's smart on their part to release the update like 4 or 5 days before the actual expansion, so that people can kind of jump back in and see what the differences are with the game. They've made a lot of differences since people first played. So if like you were someone that played it at launch or not long after launch, you're probably, if you got in it a week ago, you'd be like, oh. You would notice a lot of quality of life improvements already, performance wise, especially because, I mean, when I play Cyberpunk, I could play it with my 3080 Ti. I could play it at 4K with optimized settings well over 60 FPS. But at 1440p, I was playing at max settings, getting close to 120.
DLSS?
Yeah, of course, that's on. But with ray tracing off, if I turn ray tracing on at 1440p, I'm getting at least 60, and it just looks amazing. That game looks amazing with ray tracing on. I did turn on path tracing, and it did absolutely backslap my GPU and take but I just did it for like maybe like 10 minutes. Just walked around and just looked, and it's. I've seen some people give path tracing a bad rap because they see ray tracing, like ultra ray tracing. I think they call it psycho settings in Cyberpunk with ray tracing on. But it's unrealistic. It's like everything is super bright and super shiny, and like did it just rain internally forever?
Like glass on everything.
Yeah, it's a shine and a glass and an illumination on everything, and it's just like there's a puddle everywhere.
It's like a Jerry curl on Cyberpunk.
Right. It's like and it's like path tracing is natural, realistic lighting, and it looks great, but it also looks correct, and so it looks like if I walked outside on a sunny day and went down Washington D.C., it looks like the way lighting should look between buildings and stuff like that, and coming through the cloud. It looks right. It looks correct. And so there's a performance cost to that, and that's why they had to do the DLSS 3.5 and then make sure that it wasn't just for the 4000 series GPUs, because what's the purpose of coming out with all these great features if nobody can use them?
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I need to buy the DLC. It's on Steam right now it retails for $29.99 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like $30.
Yeah, $30. Yeah. Yep, $30. So I'm going to get that on Steam. I did finish Cyberpunk 2077. I did start a second playthrough, but I don't remember how far I got, and that was after they fixed a lot of the performance issues. I went back and started playing it again, and actually, I think it was after. Actually, it was after the anime series is when I started playing it again, and then I stopped playing the second playthrough.
Yeah, I might start over and do a Nomad, because I've done the Corpo. My monowire Sandevistan Edge Runner is a Corpo.
I did Nomad. Yeah, first.
And then my first one was a Street Rat. I might just do Nomad, even though it doesn't really matter, right? Like you have your first like 45 minutes is unique to everyone else's, but you still end up,
back in the same place at some point.
Yeah, I thought, what's the guy's name? What's
his name?
Linked
the Latino
up with.
Guy.
Yeah,
I'm assuming he's Latino.
Yeah, he is. Dang, what is his name? But you still link up with him at some point. Jackie, thank you, Corey. You still link up with Jackie. How you link up with Jackie is different. Like,
yes.
If you're the Corpo, you know Jackie because you and Jackie have done some deals. Yeah. If you are the Street Rat, you meet Jackie by chance because you both tried to jack the same car. And then if in a Nomad, I think it was you meet him through a business deal or something.
Through a business deal, and then you gotta like either you drive him or he drives you through like some kind of like military or security outpost or something to get something. I forget, but I start off as a Nomad because you start outside Night City. My second playthrough, I started as a Corpo, where you start inside Night City, and I actually thought the Corpo, the introduction of the opening scene for the Corpo was actually a little more. I thought it was a little more intriguing than the Nomad, but
it was very, because like you work for the I'm about to call it the Nakasami Corporation, like this is that hard. The Arasaka, I think that's the name of the corporation.
It is Arasaka,
yeah, you work for that corporation, and you're a basically corporate scumbag like everyone else, backstabbing everyone else to get ahead, that kind of thing. And then your boss gets sacked, which then kind of leaves you exposed to the person that was like your rival, and Jackie kind of helps you out of a tough situation, and y'all become just best friends from there. So yeah, I mean, like it's like it's only really unique for the different origins in the beginning, and then as you play the game, like in any typical RPG, you even see this in Starfield. However, your perks, your background can kind of change up some of the dialogue options you'll have. Like if you're a Street Rat and you're dealing with other people in gangs and stuff, you just have like a knowledge of like when people are being full of it, or understanding some of the issues or like some things that may happen with certain gangs and stuff like that. If you're Corpo, you'll know like the double speak corporate BS that some of these people are saying to you when they're trying to, get one over on you, that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
but it's never super involved though, unfortunately.
Yeah, well,
nothing like Dragon Age Origins.
No, no, not exactly. You love some Dragon Age, man. B Money, Game Logic. Any thoughts on Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty? I know some have been kind of going.
I already got my pre-order. I'm just waiting for it to finish downloading. I was gonna be there day one, man. CDPR, they're one of my favorite Western RPG devs. In my opinion, they're the best in the business right now. There's nobody topping them. I know everybody loves Bethesda, but they don't make great games, in my opinion. CDPR is stumping a mud hole in them, and they're only going to continue to do so as they release more games. So definitely looking forward to that. And a lot of big games still coming the rest of the year, and the start of 2024 looks amazing, at least in my opinion. A lot of JRPGs at the beginning of next year. Tekken is dropping beginning of next year. So a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, that I'm looking forward to. So 2023 is just going to roll right into 24, and it's going to continue to be an onslaught of great games.
Yeah, no. I keep thinking about all the amazing gaming experiences I've had so far this year, and I think Phantom Liberty is going to be just another good one for me. And then after that, it's probably back to Baldur's Gate 3, and then on to Spider-Man 2. So I'm excited. It's been a great year. So, Logic, any thoughts on Phantom Liberty?
No, sorry, man. I've been
remaining games of 2023.
Yeah, I just been working my personal balance sheet, figuring out how many of my bills I can pay with accountability margin.
That's funny, man. By the way, we have
accountability margin is depending on how old you are. Maybe you still do this. Is like when you have a bill that's due on the 14th, and you say that that money's coming out of your 15th paycheck.
I'll pay that when I get paid. Yeah. But look, we have like 123 people watching, 42 likes. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so already. Also, Corey Best brought up Tales of Arise DLC November 9th. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a nice little welcome surprise from the state of play. I just wish I had the time to jump back into it. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think I will either. I still haven't finished Tales of Arise 3. I haven't finished that yet.
It is not a short game. It's about 60 hours. Yeah. And some people may not have minded. I did not appreciate full on 45 minutes to an hour cutscenes. Not for me. Although I did enjoy the game though. Like, I like the combat, I like the characters. It's just some of them cutscenes, especially like I kind of felt like the ending. I kind of felt like they could have ended it. I don't know. You haven't beat the game yet. For those who have beat the game, they would know what I'm talking about. When you kind of like, it almost seems like the game is over at a certain point, and then it's not. I kind of felt like they could have ended it right there, and then did the additional like 10 hours you have to play after that as like DLC. And then they could have had this other thing as DLC too, because it's just the way it just continued on. I'm just like, this is just too much. And then for me to literally just put my controller down and just like go pop some popcorn and watch a movie for 45 minutes to an hour, like, bruh, put me out my misery. I want to end this game. So, yeah,
I mean, that's what a lot of the bigger budget JRPGs are like, though.
Yeah, but look, let's say
you feel like you get to a point where like the game should be over, and like something will happen where you're like, all right, well, that was a great game, and then it's like, oh no, there's still another 10 or 15 hours more after this. And it's like, yo, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I felt the same for Persona 5.
Persona 5's like that. I was just about to say that. Yeah. I felt like there's a point of Persona 5 where it could have ended, and I was like, oh, wait a minute.
I felt like they had one or two palaces they could have did without. And I kind of felt that after the big reveal, which the game's old. I guess I could talk about that, but I still won't. The big reveal that happens and the big betrayal part, I kind of felt like they could have ended it like not shortly after that if they wanted to. But it just seemed to keep going, and good, still high quality game. But yeah, sometimes it's just like that. Do y'all just not know when to end it? in this game. Like it just wears on you. So, and then like when you have like Persona, the way Persona 5 was designed, and Royal's a bit better. I'm glad because I've been playing through Royal on like mobile, just kind of like at times when I have the time, and I'm noticing like how they remix the palaces and they're better, and they added additional dialogue to figure something, to have to flesh some storylines out. And they didn't just introduce that new character that's going to be one of the Phantom Thieves like at the end. This is a character that you know from the very beginning of the game, and you interact with this girl all the time. And then she eventually joins you. And then they even have like a counselor, like a school counselor that wasn't there in the original game that is in this one. And there's a little story arc there too. So they really did put the work in. And even made Mementos better, because Memento was garbage in the first game. Like I hated having to go there.
Mementos was not fun.
No, nothing was fun about that section. They made that better. But it's like if you play the original game, you know that like after you beat it, it's like almost impossible to max out all of your social levels with all of your friends and potential love interests, like to the max, unless you do New Game Plus and you start over again, and you keep all those levels with you. And I mean I haven't got far enough. I'm on like the third palace. Yeah, I'm on the third palace in Royal, so I don't know how they did it, but I feel like it's easier to gain levels, social levels with different people in this one. So I don't know. I kind of feel like Atlas realized they may have gone overboard and figured some things out, made some things better. Sometimes I think developers need to just kind of look at it, take a step back, and be like, maybe we did a little too much here, you know.
That's funny, man. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. I think I'm coming down with something.
Man, you're like always sick, Slow-Mo.
I am. I'm dying, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. But big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us this evening. Really appreciate it. Do me a favor, smash that like button if you haven't done so already, and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. Big thank you to our special guest this evening, David Faulkner, Falky, as he's known on the Twitters. And I want to give a big shout out to the panel here. Slow-Mo Backslap, Game Logic at B Money 101. Slow-Mo, you have a show tomorrow.
Sure do. Me and Game and Forte will be live on Forte's channel, and the DPS channel will be dual streaming. So if you I'm gonna have to just apologize in advance for whatever technical difficulties Forte will have. So if you've been to one of our episodes before when Forte is hosting, you already know what it is. So I apologize in advance. But that said, come join us 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on his channel and the DPS channel. I don't think we have a guest this week, but we will definitely. We got a lot to talk about, as you know, and just come join us. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to it. And
Big
Money, man.
Sick too. Everybody's sick, man.
What's that?
No, I was trying to see if you picked up on the hint when you said you didn't have a guest this week.
Well, you know, if you want to come join us, it's no problem. Come on through.
All right, man.
Go ahead, Enrique. You were saying something. Enrique?
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. All right. So, B Money, please let everyone know they can find you, man.
You can find me everywhere. Same name. B Money 101. I'm not really too much on Twitter these days, but you know, if there's some cool gaming topic or something on there, you might find me on there. But otherwise, just find me on your local gaming platform, playing games.
No, absolutely. And Game Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
Yeah, Sunday nights on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. That's E2, the number 2 KG, with the Enough to Keep Going weekly games podcast, 8:45 p.m. Eastern on Sunday nights.
Awesome. All right. Well, big shout out to everyone again, the live chat. Thank you for joining us, and big thank you to our guest, David Falke. We'll be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, enjoy the rest of the week. Have fun playing video games, and we'll catch you next time.